The crystalline halls of the Galactic Council shimmered under artificial starlight, their surfaces reflecting the 7 most powerful species in known space. Council Prime Velthar of the Zentri rose from his floating throne, his 4 golden eyes scanning the assembled delegates with barely concealed disgust. His tall, angular form commanded the room as he spoke. "Fellow council members, we gather today to address the human problem," he began, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "These creatures have shown us their true nature through centuries of warfare, destruction, and chaos." Captain Kim Hyun-soo sat rigid in the observers section, his hands clasped behind his back. The human representative wore a simple blue uniform, patched and worn from years of diplomatic service. Despite being surrounded by beings who could crush him with a thought, he maintained perfect composure. Beside him, Lieutenant Park Soo-jin's fingers danced over a translation device, her face pale with concentration as she decoded the rapid exchanges between council members. "Look at their homeworld," bellowed Thrix, the insectoid counselor from Kepler 442b. Her 6 arms gestured wildly, mandibles clicking in agitation. "They poison their own sky, kill their own forests, wage war against their own kind. These humans are a cancer that must be contained." The holographic display above the council chamber flickered to life, showing Earth in its current state. Massive storms churned across the surface, while fires raged through what remained of the Amazon. Cities lay in ruins, and the oceans had turned an unnatural shade of brown. "Their final war lasted only 3 months," added Councillor Vex of the Draknari, his reptilian eyes glowing red. 3 months to nearly destroy a world it took them thousands of years to build. Is this the species we want joining our alliance? A gentle chime filled the air as the Luminos delegate, a being of pure crystal and light, spoke. "Perhaps we judge too harshly. The humans show innovation, creativity, and remarkable resilience. They have accomplished much despite their limitations." The Merdai representative, Ambassador Coral Song, gurgled agreement from her water-filled tube. Bubbles rose as she spoke in her musical language, defending humanity's scientific achievements and cultural diversity. But these voices of reason were quickly drowned out by louder protests. The Vorthan delegate, who resembled a floating jellyfish, made of dark matter, pulsed with disapproval. "They cannot even maintain peace among themselves. How can we trust them with our advanced technology?" Captain Kim Hyun-soo finally stood, his movement drawing every eye in the chamber. The conversation stopped as he cleared his throat. "Honored council members," he began, his voice steady despite the hostility surrounding him. "Humanity accepts responsibility for our failures. We have made terrible mistakes, but we have also learned from them." "Learned?" Veltar's laugh was sharp as breaking glass. "You learned how to kill more efficiently. You learned how to poison entire continents with your weapons. What possible lesson could justify welcoming destroyers into civilized space?" Lieutenant Park Soo-jin leaned forward, whispering urgent translations as several counselors spoke simultaneously. The babel of alien languages filled the air, clicking, hissing, humming, and harmonious tones that no human throat could produce. "We propose offering them a chance to prove themselves," suggested the Luminos delegate, their crystalline form pulsing with gentle light. "Perhaps a trial period under strict supervision." "Absolutely not!" The Draknari counselor's tail lashed violently. "They would corrupt everything they touch. Look at their history: slavery, genocide, environmental destruction. They spread discord wherever they go." Captain Kim Hyun-soo raised his hand, requesting permission to speak again. "We don't ask for immediate acceptance. We ask only for the opportunity to show who we've become, not who we were." Velthar's expression hardened. "Who you've become? You are a species that destroyed itself. Your greatest cities are radioactive wastelands. Your children are born wearing breathing masks. You have proven beyond doubt that humanity is unfit for the greater galaxy." The voting began immediately. Glowing orbs appeared before each council member, cycling through colors to indicate their choice. As the votes were cast, the tension in the room became palpable. Captain Kim Hyun-soo watched each light turn red, one by one. Crimson, crimson, crimson. Only 2 votes glowed blue. The Luminos and Merdai representatives, isolated voices of hope in a sea of condemnation. By this decree of the Galactic Council, Velthar announced with obvious satisfaction, humanity is hereby forbidden from all Council space. No human vessel may pass beyond the Sol system. No human may set foot upon any Council world. You shall remain quarantined to your dying planet, denied access to faster-than-light technology, until you prove yourselves worthy. He paused, his 4 eyes glittering with cruel amusement. If such a day ever comes. The chamber erupted in a mixture of relieved chatter and mocking laughter. Several councillors made dismissive gestures with their various appendages. The Vothan delegate's form shimmered with satisfaction, while Thrix clicked her mandibles in what passed for laughter among her species. Security drones, sleek silver machines with multiple arms, glided forward to escort the humans out. Captain Kim Hyun-soo rose slowly, his dignity intact despite the humiliation. Lieutenant Park Soo-jin gathered their few possessions, her hands trembling slightly. As they walked toward the exit, the laughter followed them. Snide comments in a dozen languages filled the air, though the meaning was clear enough. The humans were being dismissed as a failed species, a cautionary tale for others who might grow too violent. The massive doors of the council chamber began to close with a deep, resonant hum. Captain Kim Hyun-soo turned for one last look at the assembled delegates, his expression unreadable. Then the doors sealed shut with a final thunderous clang. The last sound the humans heard was Prime Velthar's voice, barely audible through the thick barriers. Let this be a lesson to all. There is no place in civilized space for savages who cannot control themselves. As the humans were led away to their ship, a small battered vessel that looked primitive compared to the sleek cruisers in the council station's bays, the debate within continued. But it was no longer about humanity. The aliens had already moved on to more important matters, discussing trade routes and territorial disputes. Humanity had been judged, found wanting, and forgotten. They were now truly alone in a vast galaxy that wanted nothing to do with them. The council had spoken, and their word was final. Or so they believed. 5 years had crawled by since the council's decree, and Earth was dying. The sky above Korea glowed in sick orange color, thick clouds, rolling across what used to be blue horizons. But in the ruins of Seoul, something incredible was happening. Dr. Lee Min-ho stood on the observation deck of Tower 7, watching construction drones work through the toxic air. His white lab coat was stained with grease and dirt, a far cry from the pristine facilities he once worked in. Below him, New Seoul sprawled across the wasteland like a silver flower blooming in ash. "Status report, Kim Yuna," he called to his assistant, who was monitoring the construction through her tablet. "Dome 17 is fully operational, Doctor," Kim Yuna replied, adjusting her breathing mask. "That's 3 million more people protected from the radiation storms." The massive, transparent domes stretched as far as the eye could see, each one a miracle of human engineering. Inside, green parks grew under artificial suns, while children played in clean air. It wasn't much, but it was life. In the depths of New Seoul, Cho Sung-min worked his magic with the hydroponic farms. The former farmer had become humanity's lifeline, growing food in vertical towers that reached toward the dying sky. His weathered hands touched the control panels gently, adjusting nutrients and light for millions of plants. "Another successful harvest," he reported to his team. "These new potato strains are giving us 30% more yield." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Humanity, banned from the stars, was becoming more efficient at survival than ever before. Every challenge made them stronger. Every setback sparked new innovations. Above the planet, Lieutenant Colonel Choi Jung-hwan floated in the command center of Defense Station Alpha. The orbital platforms looked like junk held together with prayer and welding, but they worked. Rusty solar panels powered ancient computers, while missile pods pointed toward the void. "Contact from Station Beta," reported Sergeant Lim Ha-na from her console. "They've detected something outside the system." Choi Jung-hwan activated his screens. watching the distant flicker of an alien fleet passing by. They never stopped anymore. Earth was quarantined, forgotten, dismissed. The ships would scan, confirm humans were still trapped, and move on. "Let them look," he muttered. "We're still here." What the aliens didn't see were the secret projects. In hidden facilities, human scientists worked around the clock. Dr. Park Kyung-soo led a team studying the metallic fragments left behind after the final war. They weren't radioactive. They were something else entirely. "These materials don't match anything in our databases," she explained to her research group. "The molecular structure is impossible." Lee Dong-hyun, her top physicist, leaned over the samples. "It's like they're from another universe entirely. Look at how they absorb energy." Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, terror had a name: the Devourer Swarm. Admiral Kexvar of the Zentry fleet drifted in his command ship, watching his proud armada flee in panic. The bioships that pursued them defied every law of physics his people understood. Massive organic vessels that looked like gigantic insects, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent veins. "Sir, we've lost the Arcturus system," his communications officer reported, her voice shaking. "The entire population consumed. The Devourers didn't just destroy worlds, they harvested them. Their ships would descend like cosmic locusts, their tendrils drilling deep into planetary cores. They consumed everything: metal, organic matter, even energy itself. What remained were hollow husks floating in space." "Send another distress call to the Council," Kexvar ordered, though he knew it was pointless. Every species was fighting for survival now. On the Council station, panic reigned. Delegates who had once mocked humanity now cowered as reports flooded in. The Thrix homeworld was gone. The Vorthan colonies were silent. System after system fell to the endless hunger. Councillor Thrix, her once proud chitinous armor now cracked and dulled, clicked her mandibles nervously. "They adapt too quickly. Our weapons become useless after a single battle." Prime Velthar's four eyes darted across the tactical displays. His people were warriors, but these creatures were beyond war. They were extinction made manifest. "What of our allies, the Murdai fleets?" "Decimated at Kepler Station," another councillor reported. "Admiral Coralsong's entire armada vanished in 6 hours. The bioships learned from every encounter. Energy weapons? They developed reflective armor, kinetic projectiles. Their hulls hardened like diamond. Nuclear warheads. They absorbed the radiation and grew stronger. Back on Earth, humanity remained oblivious to the galactic catastrophe. They were too busy surviving to monitor deep space communications. Night and day, they worked on their dying world. Jang Mi-kyung led a team of engineers building atmospheric processors. The machines were crude but effective, slowly cleaning pockets of sky above major settlements. Children born after the war had never seen blue sky, but now some would. "It'll take generations," she told her daughter during their evening walk, "but one day this world will be green again." Her daughter, Song A-rin, looked up at the orange clouds. "What about the stars, Mom? Will we ever go to the stars, Janga?" Mi-kyung smiled sadly. "Maybe someday, little one, maybe someday." Above them, a shooting star blazed across the toxic sky. It wasn't a meteor. It was debris from a council ship, destroyed light years away by creatures so terrible that entire civilizations fled at the mere mention of their name. The Council's mighty fleets, once the terror of primitive worlds, now ran like frightened children. Their advanced weapons were useless. Their superior tactics meant nothing. The Devourers consumed everything in their path, growing larger and more terrible with each victory. In the command centers of a dozen worlds, desperate messages flew back and forth. Every species was calling for help, but none could provide it. The alliance that had dominated the galaxy for millennia was crumbling like paper in a fire. "We need a miracle," Admiral Kexava whispered as another bioship appeared on his sensors. That miracle existed, but it lived on a quarantined world nobody remembered. Humanity had been dismissed, forgotten, left to die in their toxic tomb. The Council hadn't issued a single communication to Earth in 5 years. They had no idea that human ingenuity, forged in the fires of self-destruction, was about to unleash something beyond their wildest imagination. In a small laboratory beneath New Seoul, Dr. Han Woo-jin made a discovery that would change everything. The strange fragments they'd been studying weren't just alien technology, they were a key to power beyond anything Earth had ever imagined. He stared at his readings, not believing what he saw. "This can't be right," he muttered, running. The tests again. The materials weren't just from another world, they were from another dimension entirely. And they were about to turn a species of survivors into something the galaxy had never seen. But that was still to come. For now, humanity endured in their poison sky, building hope from ruin while the galaxy burned around them. The council chambers had never seen such chaos. Emergency klaxons wailed like dying beasts, while delegates scrambled to their positions, their various forms moving in panic. The great crystalline structure that had stood as a symbol of galactic peace for centuries now trembled with fear. Prime Velthar materialized at his podium, his 4 golden eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. The proud Zentry leader looked nothing like the confident being who had banished humanity 5 years ago. His angular form was hunched, his ceremonial robes torn and stained. "Fellow council members," his voice cracked with exhaustion, "the situation has deteriorated beyond our worst predictions. The Devourer swarm has broken through the outer rim defenses." Holographic displays lit up around the chamber, showing star maps painted in red. Each crimson dot represented a fallen system, a world consumed by the bioships from beyond known space. Councillor Thrix's chitinous form clicked violently as she spoke. "The Vega colony is gone. 2 billion souls, devoured in 18 hours. The Haltair system fell yesterday," added the Draknari representative, his scaled hide pale with fear. "They didn't even have time to evacuate." Admiral Kexvar's image flickered to life via subspace transmission. The once mighty Zentry commander looked defeated, his proud uniform scorched and torn. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship showed signs of battle, sparking consoles, shattered screens, and crew members working frantically. "Council, we've lost 3/4 of the combined fleet," he reported grimly. "These creatures adapt to everything we throw at them. Our plasma cannons become useless after one engagement. Our void shields might as well be tissue paper." Prime Velthar nodded gravely. "We estimate that at current rate of advance, the Devourers will reach the core worlds within." Every screen in the chamber suddenly flickered. The emergency displays vanished, replaced by rolling static. Then, impossibly, a new image appeared. The camera showed a human in a uniform, unlike anything the Council had ever seen. The fabric seemed to shift and shimmer with its own inner light, decorated with symbols that hurt to look at directly. Behind the figure, space itself seemed different. Stars moved in patterns that violated the laws of physics. "Greetings, Galactic." "Council," the woman spoke in perfect standard, though her Korean accent was unmistakable. "This is Admiral Nam Ji-won of the Terran Defense Fleet." The chamber fell silent. Even the klaxons seemed to pause in disbelief. "We have been monitoring your situation with the Devourer swarm," she continued calmly. "Our fleet stands ready to provide assistance." Behind her, shapes moved through the void, massive vessels that seemed to bend light around them. They appeared to be phasing in and out of reality, their hulls reflecting stars that shouldn't be there. Councillor Thrix was the first to recover from shock, her mandibles clicking loudly. "Impossible. This is clearly some human trick. They lack faster-than-light capability. They're quarantined to their dying world." "Delete this signal immediately," Prime Velthar ordered his technicians. "We will not be made fools of by desperate primitives." But the transmission continued. The human admiral seemed to hear him, a slight smile playing at her lips. "I understand your skepticism, Prime Velthar. After all, you left us to die on our poisoned world. But we adapted." The camera panned to show more of the space around her. Dozens of ships hung in the void, each one defying conventional design. They had no visible engines, no exhaust trails, nothing that suggested how they moved. One vessel phased through what looked like a small asteroid, emerging on the other side completely unharmed. "Those ships," whispered the Merdai delegate, her melodious voice filled with awe. They're violating the fundamental laws of physics. It's a holographic trick, insisted Thrix. Humans are known for their deception. But even as she spoke, more details became clear. The star field behind. The human fleet wasn't Earth's local system. The constellation visible in the background was Draco, 40 light-years from Solbot Prime Veltar's four eyes narrowed dangerously. Even if this isn't a hoax, we have no reason to trust you. You're a species that destroys everything it touches. Admiral, Namji-Won nodded slowly. We were. But exile has taught us many things. We learned to survive where you expected us to die. We learned to adapt where you thought we'd fail. One of her ships moved closer to the camera, its hull becoming visible in detail. The metal seemed alive, flowing like liquid while maintaining its shape. Symbols pulsed along its sides, not painted on, but part of the structure itself. Where? Did you get this technology? Demanded the Draknari counselor. You might say we found it, the Admiral replied cryptically. Pieces of it crashed on Earth after our final war. Took us 5 years to understand what we'd discovered. Now we offer it freely to save the galaxy. The Vorthan delegate, their dark matter form pulsing with uncertainty, spoke for the first time. You expect us to believe that humans, denied all advanced technology, somehow developed ships superior to our own. Not developed, Namji-Won corrected. Understood. The fragments that fell from our sky taught us something profound. The universe has layers, dimensions beyond what you perceive. The Devourers come from one such layer. She gestured, and the image changed to show a bio-ship in the distance. But this wasn't a recording from Council archives. This was happening now in real time. The Devourer vessel was massive, its organic hull pulsing with bioluminescent veins. They've been probing our reality for millennia, the Admiral explained. What you call the Devourer swarm is just their scouting force. The Council delegates stared in horror as more bioships emerged from what looked like tears in space itself. They moved like living nightmares, their tentacles reaching out to brush against nearby debris, dissolving it instantly. This is why we offer our aid, Namji-Won continued. Not for your acceptance, not for forgiveness, but because if the Devourers aren't stopped here, they'll consume everything, including Earth. Prime Velthar laughed, but it sounded forced. You expect us to believe that Earth, a quarantined world, presents some kind of final target? Earth is the key, she said simply. The fragments that fell there weren't random. They were deliberately placed. Someone or something wanted humanity to find them. The human ships began to move, their impossible velocities making Council observers dizzy. They seemed to skip through space, appearing at one point and instantly materializing at another. We've defeated 3 Devourer scouting groups already, the Admiral reported casually. Each victory taught us more about their weaknesses. The chamber erupted in disbelief. Several delegates shouted at once, their various languages creating a cacophony of denial and fear. Impossible, Thrix screeched above the noise. Council forces couldn't stop a single bioship. Yet here we are, Namji-Won said with quiet confidence, offering to share what we've learned, offering to fight alongside those who cast us out. The transmission flickered momentarily, showing a brief glimpse of the human ship's interiors. Beings in the same shimmering uniforms worked at consoles that defied description, their hands moving through what looked like solid light. This offer stands for exactly 1 hour, the Admiral announced. After that, we return to Earth to prepare for the real invasion. The screens went dark. The Council chamber fell into stunned silence, broken only by the distant wail of klaxons. Prime Velthar was the first to speak, his voice shaking with rage and disbelief. Cut all recording devices. This conversation never happened. But technicians were already working frantically at their consoles. Sir, one called out nervously, the transmission bypassed our security completely. It's been broadcast to every planet in Council space. Across the galaxy, billions had just watched impossible ships offering salvation to the very people who had cast them out. The Luminose delegate chimed softly. Perhaps we should consider their offer. Never. Velthar slammed his fist on the podium. We will not be made fools by desperate humans and their parlor tricks. But privately, many wondered, what if it wasn't a trick? What if humanity, in their isolation and desperation, had discovered something that could save them all? Above a distant world, Admiral Nam Ji-won closed the communication channel and turned to her bridge crew. All humans, all wearing the same impossible uniforms that seemed to exist partly in this reality and partly in something else. Think they'll accept our help? Asked Captain Cho Jin-ae. The Admiral smiled grimly. Pride goes before the fall, but we'll be ready either way. In the council chambers, arguments raged as delegates tried to process what they'd just seen. Outside, the galaxy burned as bioships consumed world after world. Time was running out, but humanity was done waiting for permission. Admiral Kexvar clutched his command chair as his flagship shuddered under another impact. Through the cracked viewscreen, he watched the most beautiful system in Zentri space die. The Centauri system, with its twin blue suns and 7 paradise worlds, was being devoured alive. Sir, the Serenity has been breached. His communications officer screamed over the noise. The bioships! They're eating through the hull! Kexvar closed his 4 eyes in defeat. 30 years of military service, and this was how it ended. Around him, the bridge crew worked desperately, their pale blue skin glistening with sweat as they fired weapon after weapon at the monsters outside. The Devourer bioships were beyond horrifying. Each one was the size of a small moon, their organic hulls pulsing with veins of electricity. Thousands of tentacles writhed from their bodies, each tipped with diamond-hard teeth that could slice through starship armor like butter. The colony worlds, whispered Navigator Sylvan, pointing at the tactical display. They're beginning the harvest. Below them, the agricultural world of Centauri Prime screamed in digital agony. Massive tendrils descended from the bioships, drilling deep into the planet's crust. Where they touched, the ground turned black and crumbled to dust. 5 billion souls lived on that world. Now they were nothing but food. All remaining ships, form defensive grid pattern Beta 7, Kexvar ordered hopelessly. They had started with 200 vessels. Now less than 20 remained, their shields flickering like dying candles. The largest bioship, a nightmare creature bigger than most space stations, turned its attention to the Zentri flagship. A dozen eyes along its hull opened, each one burning. With malevolent intelligence, its mouth large enough to swallow entire cities began to open. That's when space exploded. It wasn't an explosion of fire or plasma. Reality simply tore apart like old fabric, revealing something impossible beneath. Through the wound in space-time stepped ships that shouldn't exist. The human vessels moved like schools of fish, their hulls reflecting light that wasn't there. They seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, phasing between visible and invisible, in patterns that hurt to watch. This is Admiral Nam Ji-won of the Terran Defense Fleet. A calm voice cut through every communication channel. The accent was unmistakably Korean, speaking standard with perfect clarity. All Council vessels withdraw to safe distance immediately. We are engaging hostile forces. Kexvar laughed bitterly. Humans? How are humans even here? His answer came in the form of impossible warfare. The lead human ship simply flew straight at the massive bioship's open mouth. The Devourer's tentacles lashed out, expecting to crush the tiny vessel. Instead, the human ship became translucent and passed right through everything, emerging from the bioship's back like a ghost. Inside the creature, lights began to flicker and die. What just happened? Gasped Sylvan. More human ships joined the attack. They moved in perfect coordination, like dancers performing a deadly ballet. One moment they were solid, firing weapons that seemed to tear holes in reality itself. The next moment they were translucent, letting enemy attacks pass harmlessly through them. The bioship's tentacles, which had shredded council armor like paper, couldn't touch the human vessels. Every time the Devourers adapted their attacks, the human ships adapted faster. Captain Park In-soo watched the battle from the bridge of the human cruiser, Defiance. Her ship's hull rippled with flowing patterns that made her feel dizzy if she looked too long. Phase drive at 90%, she reported, ready for dimensional slip. Execute, came the Admiral's voice. The Defiance folded in on itself and reappeared inside a bioship 3 kilometers away. Instantly, the creature's interior filled with some kind of energy weapon that seemed to erase parts of the organic structure from existence. Lee Sang-woo, the ship's tactical officer, couldn't believe the readings on his screen. "Ma'am, we're not just destroying them, we're making them for undefined." Outside, the bioship writhed in what might have been pain. Its bioluminescent veins dimmed and died as entire sections of its body simply stopped existing. The Devourer swarm, which had never met effective resistance, suddenly found themselves outmatched. Their ability to adapt, their greatest strength, became useless against technology that rewrote the rules with each engagement. A smaller bioship tried to ram the human destroyer, Soul's Pride. Instead of dodging, the human ship opened what looked like a hole in its hull. The bioship flew straight through and emerged on the other side, completely frozen in some kind of temporal stasis. "Temporal disruption weapon confirmed," reported the ship's captain, Commander Kim Hyo-jin. "Target neutralized for analysis." The battle turned into a rout. Bioships that had devoured entire star systems fled in terror from creatures they couldn't understand or defeat. Some tried to retreat through the dimensional rifts they'd used to enter normal space, only to find human ships waiting on the other side. On the Zentry flagship, the crew watched in stunned silence as humanity's exiled children saved the day. Kegsvar's tactical officer, a young Zentry named Morhan, stammered reports that made no sense. "Sir, the humans they're inside multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their weapons aren't just destroying the bioships, they're editing them out of reality." Within 2 hours it was over. The Devourer swarm that had terrorized the galaxy for months was either destroyed or in full retreat. The bioships that remained fled through tears in space-time, their alien screams echoing across dimensions. Admiral Nam Ji-won's face appeared on every screen in the system. Behind her, human crew members moved with quiet efficiency, tending to both their own wounded and rescued aliens with equal care. "All Council vessels, medical teams are standing by if needed," she announced. "We'll begin search and rescue operations immediately." Kegsvar found his voice first. "Human Admiral, how is this possible? You were quarantined to Earth. You had no faster-than-light capability." Nam Ji-won smiled sadly. 5 years ago, debris fell from our sky during the final war. We thought it was from our own weapons. We were wrong. Those fragments contained technology from another reality, pieces of Devourer ships that had tried to invade our dimension before." The camera shifted to show part of the human ship's interior. The walls seemed to flow like liquid metal while maintaining their shape. Crew members worked at consoles that appeared to be made of solid light. "We spent 5 years learning to understand it," she continued. "Every piece taught us something new about the nature of reality itself. We discovered that the Devourers come from a dimension where different physical laws apply." Lieutenant Hong Min-jun, the Admiral's aide, stepped into view. "The fragments weren't random debris. They were left deliberately like breadcrumbs leading us to the truth." Around the Centauri system, human ships continued their rescue work. They seemed to know exactly where to find survivors, their sensors penetrating through dimensions the Council races couldn't even perceive. Dr. Yoon Jong-ho, chief medical officer aboard the hospital ship Mercy of Seoul, worked tirelessly alongside his team. They treated Zentry burns, repaired Draknari scales, and stabilized Merdai respiratory systems with equal skill. "Every life saved is a victory against extinction," he told his staff as they prepared for another wave of casualties. On Centauri Prime, the harvest had left terrible scars. But where the human ships deployed their healing technology, the land itself began to recover. Black soil turned green again as some kind of dimensional energy repaired the molecular damage. Councillor Thrix, her pride shattered like her chitinous armor, transmitted from her damaged ship. "Why?" she asked simply. "We cast you out. We left you to die. Why save us?" Admiral Nam Ji-won's expression softened. "Because that's what makes us human. We remember the pain, but we choose hope." The rescue operations continued through the day. Human medical teams worked alongside Council medics, sharing knowledge that shouldn't have existed. Their technology didn't just heal wounds, it seemed to erase them from ever having existed. As the human fleet prepared to depart, Admiral Nam Ji-won made one final transmission. "The Devourers will return, This was just their scouting force. When they come back, they'll bring their full might. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Earth remembers being alone. We won't let that happen to anyone else. The human ships began to phase out of normal space, their hulls becoming translucent before vanishing entirely. But before they left, each vessel transmitted detailed technical data about devourer biology and weaknesses. HFY stared at the empty space where miracles had just occurred. His ship's computer was already analyzing the human data, confirming its impossibility and its truth in equal measure. "Sir," Navigator Sylvan whispered, "the humans, they're heading back toward Earth." To prepare for what's coming, HFY realized grimly. In the council chambers, emergency sessions would debate whether to lift humanity's ban. But that decision would come too late. The species they had dismissed as violent primitives had just proved themselves the galaxy's only hope against extinction. The stars themselves seemed to whisper a question across the void. What else were humans capable of when pushed to their limits? The council chambers had witnessed many historic moments, but nothing like this. The vast crystalline hall stretched empty and silent, its usual buzz of conversation replaced by the soft hum of holographic displays showing the same footage. Over and over, on the screens, human ships moved like poetry written in starlight. They phased through reality as if dimensions were mere suggestions, their impossible dance turning certain defeat into miraculous victory. The bioships that had devoured entire civilizations fled in terror from vessels that shouldn't exist. Prime. Velthar sat motionless in his throne, his four golden eyes reflecting the endless replay. His proud shoulders had collapsed under the weight of realization. Around him, other council members watched in similar stunned silence. Councillor Thrix clicked her mandibles once, then fell quiet again. Her chitinous armor, once a symbol of her people's strength, now seemed like a child's costume. She had spent years mocking human weakness only to be saved by their strength. The footage shifted to what came after the battle. Human medical ships, their hulls flowing like liquid silver, moved among the wreckage with purpose and care. Every survivor, regardless of species, received the same expert treatment. Dr. Yoon Jung-ho appeared on screen, his hands steady as he worked on a badly injured Draknari officer. His medical team moved with practiced efficiency, using technology that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. "The spinal column is severely damaged," he reported calmly, "but the dimensional healing matrix can reconstruct the neural pathways completely." Around him, other humans worked equally hard. Lieutenant Nahanul coordinated with a Vorthan engineer to stabilize a collapsing habitat module. Captain Song Ye-jin led a team repairing a Merdai city ship, learning their aquatic technology in hours and improving it in days. Admiral Nam Ji-won's voice cut through the medical chatter, addressing all frequencies. "Every life has value. That's what makes us human." Those words had echoed through council space for 3 days now. They were broadcast on every channel, repeated in every language, discussed in every home from the core worlds to the outer rim. Prime Velthar finally moved, his hands trembling as he reached for his ceremonial sash. The golden fabric bore the symbols of 7 civilizations united in purpose. It had adorned his chest for 30 years, a mark of honor and authority. He undid the clasp with infinite care and let it fall to the floor. The soft sound of its landing seemed louder than thunder in the silent chamber. One by one, other council members followed. Thrix removed her battle crown, the ancient relic clattering on crystalline stone. The Draknari representative shed his scales of office. The Merdai delegate drained her ceremonial pool. The Vorthan councillor dimmed his form until he was barely visible. Shame filled the air like poisonous gas. "We were fools," whispered the Luminos delegate, their crystalline form pulsing with dim light. "We condemned the one species capable of saving us all." In his private chambers, Admiral HFY reviewed the battle data for the 1,000th time. The human ships hadn't just won. They had rewritten the laws of physics to do it. Their weapons existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their shields phased between states of matter like thoughts becoming real. How long have they hidden this capability? His aide wondered aloud. "They didn't hide it," HFY replied grimly. They built it from the wreckage we ignored. Across the galaxy, similar conversations played out in 100 languages. The species that had once mocked humanity's self-destruction now realized the terrible irony. Earth's final war hadn't been their failure. It had been their catalyst. In C. The council chambers, the formal debate began, but it was mere ceremony. Every delegate knew the outcome before the first word was spoken. The motion to lift all restrictions on human space travel, announced Acting Prime Velthar, his voice hollow with defeat. All in favor. Every light in the chamber glowed green, not a single abstention, not a moment's hesitation. The motion carries unanimously, he continued, though the words felt like poison in his throat. The second motion, to invite humanity to join the Galactic Council as an equal member. Again, every light blazed green immediately. The communication array activated, sending the historic messages across subspace toward Earth. The journey would take hours even at light speed, but the replies came much faster. Dr. Lee Min-ho appeared, on screen in his simple lab coat, standing in New Seoul's government building. Behind him, the city's domes showed glimpses of green, life growing in a world everyone had written off as dead. "We have received your messages," he said formally. "The lifting of our exile is acknowledged with gratitude. Your invitation to join the council is also received." He paused, and for a moment his composure cracked. "We appreciate the offer. We'll consider it after we finish helping you rebuild what you've lost." The screen shifted to show human ships throughout council space. In the Vega system, where 2 billion had died, human engineers worked alongside sobbing survivors to rebuild entire worlds. The humans shared their impossible technology freely, asking nothing in return. On the Altair colonies, where the Devourers had consumed everything, human agricultural teams were somehow coaxing life from sterile ground. Their dimensional farming techniques defied understanding, but the food they produced tasted of hope. Lieutenant Colonel Choi Jung-hwan, now commanding the Earth Defense Force, stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship. Through the viewscreen, Earth hung like a wounded jewel against the stars. "Status report on the refugee fleets," he asked. 17 species have requested temporary sanctuary on Earth," reported his aide. "The atmospheric processors can accommodate them all within 6 months." The irony was complete. The poisoned world the Council had left to die was now offering shelter to those they had failed to protect. In a small apartment in New Seoul, a Zentry child played with human children, their translator device allowing them to share games across species barriers. The child's parents had been killed in the Devourer attacks, but human families had taken him in without question. "Why are humans so nice?" the young Zentry asked in broken standard. A human girl, no older than 7, considered this carefully. "My mommy says it's because being mean hurts everybody, even us." Such scenes played out across the galaxy as human mercy ships became a symbol of hope. Where council forces had fled, humans arrived. Where civilizations had fallen, humans helped them rise again. The transformation wasn't just political, it was profound. Species that had once viewed each other with suspicion now worked side by side, united in shame over their treatment of humanity. Prime Velthar visited Earth 6 months after the ban was lifted. The world that had been written off as doomed now showed patches of blue sky. The humans, in their characteristic way, were healing not just their own world, but using it as a refuge for others. "How do you do it?" he asked Dr. Lee Min-ho as they walked through a garden where earth plants grew alongside alien specimens. "How do you forgive us?" The human scientist smiled sadly. "Because holding anger hurts the one who holds it most. We learned that from destroying our own world." A year later, humanity accepted the council seat, but they did so on their own terms. Ambassador Park Soo-jin, now representing Earth in the chambers where she had once been dismissed, stood before the assembled delegates. "We join this council not as rulers or subjects, but as partners," she declared. "We've all learned that the universe is too dangerous for any of us to stand alone." The applause that followed wasn't the polite clapping of political correctness. It was genuine relief, gratitude, and hope. In the end, humanity's greatest strength wasn't their mysterious technology or their dimensional ships. It was their ability to grow from failure, to choose forgiveness over vengeance, and to protect those who had cast them out. The galaxy had feared humanity's capacity for war. They learned instead to respect their capacity for mercy. Years passed. The Devourer threat returned, but this time the galaxy was ready. United not by fear but by respect, the species of Council Space fought side by side. Humans led the charge, not because they were superior, but because they remembered what it felt like to be alone. And when the final bioship fell, when the last Devourer fled to whatever dark dimension spawned them, the celebration echoed not just across space but across hearts that had learned to beat as one. The humans had been tested by exile and emerged not bitter but stronger. They had been offered the chance for revenge and chosen mercy instead. In the end, that choice saved not just the galaxy, but the very meaning of civilization itself. The stars shone brighter, knowing that somewhere among them, on a small blue world that refused to die, hope had learned to speak with a human voice. The end.